Welcome to our next episode of Coffee with Sales Engineers. Today, I'm super excited to have Nick Riitano join us. I've known Nick for a long time. We've talked about SC leadership best practices. I've called on you many times, Nick, to
Yes.
ask for advice and questions. And this is so exciting that we're reconnecting to share some wisdom for sales engineers and share some stories and journeys about sales engineers. I know you have had amazing sales engineering journey all the way starting from mechanical engineering to leading some of the largest SC teams in our industry. So I'm very excited to get into it. So Nick, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit to our audience and then we'll dive into our questions.
Yeah, sure. Again, this is really exciting, Sachin. Thanks so much for having me here. We have been really talking for many years about a lot of different topics, and I can honestly say you have more passion for the solutions engineering role than anyone I really have ever met. So this podcast is just indicative of that. So thank you
Thanks,
for
Nick.
having me today. Nick Riitano, I've been in the solution space approaching 30 years. My first job, I started in customer support and then it turned into solutions. But I love it. It's great. I'm currently at Asana. I've spent time at Salesforce.com, leading a team, sometimes 100 plus to other times as small as three. Started there about 19 years ago as an SE. Before that, I was at a company called Clarify that was acquired by Amdocs. I was always in the solutions or a sales engineer role. That's
Mhm.
pretty much been my bread and butter since I started my career back in 95. So,
Lifelong career of sales engineering, man. You're an SE for lifer, which is amazing to see. There's no reason to do something else because of the stuff we're going to talk about today in terms of all the goodness that this profession has to offer. But before we go into it, I saw on LinkedIn you had an undergrad in mechanical engineer and computer science academic. Um, when you were going through college, did you know you were going to get into it? Or when was the first time you discovered what solutions engineering or sales engineering is?
yeah, I don't know of anybody that really knows, or at least at that time, or ever heard of solutions engineering. I
Right.
basically came into the tech field in the mid 90s. I had graduated with a mechanical engineering degree. I started looking for work in that area, and I just didn't find it as exciting. It was lab coats in factory type stuff, working with machinery. And I was thinking about an MBA. Actually, a friend of mine said, hey, he was a fraternity brother, and we did labs together throughout the engineering courses that required it. And he was the one that introduced me to really computers. He helped me buy my first report and really use that computer to do our labs. And so he said, why don't you do computer science? And I thought that would probably be a lot quicker and faster route to a master's degree because I have a lot of the science background and everything related to what you have to do for computer science, where with an MBA, it would take longer. I'd have to go back and
Right.
learn some of the business course. So I did it. I jumped in, and about a year after I was doing courses at night while working in construction and other internship type things, I basically said, I think I'm ready to go find work in this field. And in this field certainly wasn't solutions engineering. It was just computer-based work. So I landed at a job at a small company called Brownstone Solutions as their first customer support representative. One of the first tasks I was given was to review or research three different software vendors to provide ticketing software so we could do that. Now in the 90s, very early age, there wasn't many enterprise level software companies providing applications. It was like maybe the back end database stuff, obviously Windows. And I started doing that. And I liked the whole idea of learning these new technologies and then trying to actually say, how would I use that technology to solve our internal customer support issues and needs? So we got acquired, and they started then looking for the acquiring company for people that they called product specialists.
Okay.
They were acquiring a lot of client server based companies because the industry was now moving into this client server based world versus mainframe. And they needed expertise in that area. So what they did was they had a 4-month program where they put everybody into a rigorous training around everything client server, database technology, and then of course to learn all the technologies that they had acquired that were client server, and then to be product specialists. I got to move and live in Chicago for 6 months
Nice.
while they were doing that. And then I would basically come back and support the sales team in selling these new client server technologies that they had acquired and be a product specialist.
You worked with sales reps before that moment. So this was your first exposure to now I'm engaging with AE as a product specialist.
Absolutely. So after I was done with that, they asked me to stay in Chicago, but I said, no, I'm a New Yorker at heart. I had to come back home to New York, love my Yankees. So I came back home and I started working with the Northeast team as the product specialist. So doing essentially SE work. And I still didn't even know what it was at the time. It was just like, okay, come and join the sales rep and help them answer questions and show the product and things like that. And I was 25 years old when that started. And like I said, almost 30 years later, I'm still doing the same type of work. The name has changed, but it's pretty much exactly the same.
That's amazing. What a great story. And for a lot of companies, there's different flavors of it. So product specialists supporting sales. But let me ask, were you tinkering with technology or was there a intellectual curiosity component to even when you were studying
Right.
for engineer?
I enjoyed the freedom that computers gave us because if you knew a little bit of code and were curious enough, everything you need is right here, right on the keyboard
Right.
and the screen, and you could play and you can kind of configure and you can code and you can make some really cool things happen. Whereas with mechanical engineering in general, you're literally just a cog in a big wheel that has to do your little sliver engineering
Right.
design. So I love that part of it. But inherently, I used to joke and say, I am the solutions engineer, but don't get technical with me. Because what I really enjoyed more was the business side of it, the ability to be introduced into some of the largest companies in the world and really just see under the covers how they're running their business from it started from support, then it went to sales, then marketing. And so I was able to really see, wow, how they actually run businesses behind the scenes. And then I could bring my knowledge of our technology to them to say, hey, you could do it better by using this. So it gave
Right.
me that ability. So I was learning not only just my products and how to sell, but just how different parts of an organization work, how we collaborate, how industries function. Each industry has their own nuance on how they might leverage or use a specific technology. So that's really what I loved was getting more of the business understanding and then saying, hey, now I have the skill set of a technology that I know. How can I use it and apply it there? But inherently, I wasn't a technology first tinkerer, if you will.
It's the sales engineering is not for everyone. Not everyone's great at it, but people that are great at it, they have one thing in common. And one of those foundational things is this unlimited curiosity to figure things out, to problem solve, to learn about industries. Like you talked about, you like to click on it, go a little bit deeper.
I was always someone too that I loved electronics and I wanted to have the coolest radio with the knobs and be the only
Right.
one that knew how to work the knobs and be like, wow, look at my radio. And I too would break open my electric race cars to see how the engine was going. I'd make little things. I would do all that stuff myself. I found also it's more than just knowing how they work, especially as I got into my career. It's about understanding why I need to know that and then how I
Right.
use that to do something better. So maybe that's why I'm not a tinkerer as much anymore. I want to learn something because then I want to really apply it. So if I don't have the something to apply it to, I tend to lose interest pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And the solutions engineering thing, you're always presented with another challenge by
Right.
another company or another industry or with a new piece of technology that comes into the toolbox, as we called it, to try and find a solution to somebody's problem with the technology or the platform that you have an expertise in.
And I know we take it for granted, but when you have that genuine curiosity about wanting to understand the problem, and as you're saying, not just understand it, but then figure out how are you going to use this information to solve that problem, we bring that into every prospect conversation and the audience can feel it.
I think a lot of people fall into it sometimes, not knowing, like myself. I didn't know really what it was. The description was like what I thought would be great. Then again, I was young. First, I'm like, oh, I get to travel and I get to talk to a lot of different customers. I'm never just chained to an office all day. That was the early allure. But then once you get going, I think some people see what you're talking about and have that personality, and they're there forever because they love it and there's different nuances in the role. Others find that it's not for them and they create a product or move themselves into sales. So there's a lot of different areas you can go with a solid foundation solution.
Yep. And I think you just started to answer my second question, which is, okay, so you got it, you were in it, you found out that you were naturally good at it because of the things we talked about. Obviously, 30 years later, you're still in the same profession. What keeps you going? What's so exciting about being in sales engineering universe that you haven't looked elsewhere or looked back?
What kept me in was the constant ability to have access to the latest technology, exposure to the inner workings of some of the largest companies in the world, the ability to sell across many different business functions as well as industries. So whenever you got tired of something, you could do the same type of role, but in another industry or another technology. So you always have the opportunity to learn and understand something new. Over time, of course, I began to lead teams, teams that were international, teams that were small, teams that were very large, teams that were middle ground, teams at companies that were already mature. But the most exciting part was I was blessed enough to land at Salesforce in it was just had gone public in 2004. And I was literally the second SE hired in the New York area to go into enterprise. So we went from that to the global company that it is today. And I was able to not just still be part of solutions, but be part of a business organization and function that had to learn how to scale, how to grow, how to hire. So then it became more of learning not about being a solutions engineer and the technology, but how to be a solutions engineer leader and how to craft a scalable business. How do you enable people to learn this technology as you hire them? And how do you train them? How do you incorporate procedures and processes to ensure that you're doing the right motions in a sales cycle? So even though it's solutions, there's still a career journey that you can have within that. Now, to be honest, I'm still in solutions. I feel that I've learned so much in doing all of this from SE to leadership to vice president roles. I took some time off last year when I left Salesforce, and I consciously made the decision to go back to a field level manager at a
Yeah.
small company. To be honest, I felt if I go somewhere else with another VP title or something, I'm just going to parachute into a political environment where I have to survive or figure out how to navigate.
Yeah.
And I really wanted to have fun again. And so I'm here at Asana. I'm leading a nice small team for the enterprise.
You're closer to the action.
I feel to be a great SE or an SE leader, you have to also know how to be an SE. And the best way to be an SE is to be in front of the customer and talk to them, play with the product, learn the product. And I can do that this way. But now I can also bring all the experience I have to the leadership team and the sales and others to hopefully inspire and share all the experience that I had in growing a business at Salesforce and do the same here. I've had a great career, a blessed career. I'm still in it, but I, I'm more now about seeing everything I've learned, transferred over to a lot of other next generation of solutions, if you will,
Yeah.
and seeing the entire organization and company grow. And by doing that, by essence, my role will continue to grow and change as it did in the past. And that's where I'm fine. I'm really enjoying it. And again, that's what's keeping me in the profession, starting over again and really seeing how do we take this smaller organization now and turn it into the next big thing in the next 5 years.
That's amazing. Like you said, it's very transferable. So that's the amazing thing about the profession also is the core of sales engineering can be taken from one company to the next company. I've heard a lot of people talk about stay in your subject matter expertise, continue to get better in the vertical that you're in. I want to ask you about from a pattern hiring standpoint, since you've hired so many SCs, I'm sure from all different backgrounds. If you don't have sales engineering experience and you're applying for a company, at least have the context experience for that company. So if you've been in healthcare doing something else, project management or something like that, and you're applying for a healthcare tech company, you've got the healthcare part done, but you just have to learn sales engineering. But if you're learning the industry and sales engineering at the same time, sometimes that can become overwhelming. What do you look for from a hiring stand? Are there things that you really hone in on when candidates come and talk to you?
Back when I started as an SE, you really had to have the technical background because technology wasn't as mature as it is today. I had the Spark Unix box and we had to go into the root directory. You had to do some level of coding, drop files in because that was just the maturity phase of the technology at the time, right? Today, now, you don't need to really know how to code or anything. It's almost prompt engineering. How do you specifically give, in plain English, directions for the AI or the computer to give you results? So
Right.
that skill set has gone more and more towards the business end than the technical end. So to your point, you don't have to be a technology person, but if you have the knowledge of an industry or a specific segment that you can then go on the vendor side to bring that knowledge so that you can help sell it and just learn the technology. It's easy to learn the technology now because it's not as technical. It's point and click. It's understanding the value that it might bring to an organization. So you're seeing more and more people that don't have it. I was a lawyer, now they're selling law firms software, or I
Yep.
was a real estate. There's a lot of different backgrounds now that can come into solutions engineering. So what I look for now also is the maturity of the team that I'm hiring for and the organization.
Mhm.
If you're early on, you need someone that maybe is going to be very dynamic, able to turn demos at a time. So maybe you do need them a little bit more technical, a little bit more curious in terms of wanting to learn technology and able to turn fast. Like a small company,
Mhm.
you got a lot of meetings, you got a lot of presentations to deliver, et cetera. Whereas as you grow and you get deeper into the enterprise and your product portfolio gets bigger, you need a different type of skill set. And are you hiring for a specialist role or are you hiring for a general account management type role where they're coordinating all the technical resources? So it's really different as the company matures and grows. You don't need just
Yeah.
the technical degrees and that kind of stuff to pull from, but you have to look at your team as a whole and say, what do I need right now? Do I need that more technical person, or maybe it's more of the art part and I need the business person that
Right.
knows the industry, but I can teach them the technology?
If people see a job description or the job title with like solution architect or sales engineer or solutions engineer, I think it falsely can deter somebody to not apply because they're like, oh, I don't have an engineering degree. They might read the description. They're like, I really need to be a technical person or have technical background to be able to achieve success in this role. Whereas I've seen so many examples of school teachers, lawyers, other people that don't have that technical background to join this career and have amazing success. If you've got the technical orientation, at least, or that intellectual curiosity, that's what feeds you going. As long as you're open to learning, you'll figure it out.
That's exactly right. I mean, anybody right now, you can go to so many different company training or academy sites and get your own certification. You don't need to really have that deep. You just have to have the want, and because it's going to take time. You got to put in the hours to learn the technology, and that's it. Now, the key thing that I always find is really the biggest differentiator in solutions engineering is it's art and science. It's not
Yeah.
just the science of the technology, it's the art, knowing the business. And the art is being able to present those solutions in a manner that inspires and excites a customer to buy. You have to be able to stand up in front of that crowd, own it, and get them excited about the technology. And yes, you have to put a little bit of the sales spin on it. It's not post sale where it's black or white. It works this way or it doesn't. You have to massage it a bit and also be creative. And maybe there's other ways to solve the business problem that others aren't thinking of because they're just looking for a specific feature.
That's an amazing analogy. I love that. You've worked with so many different account executives and sales leaders from different backgrounds. I've always believed one of the most important aspect of sales engineering is the relationship between the AE and the SC, because when it hums, it creates magic. But in my experience, it only hums like 20-30% of the time for some
Right.
reason. It's an undervalued, people don't
It,
focus on it.
it's paramount, and it is the single most important and hardest part of the job solutions. One of the things in my early years, especially when I was at field level management and I was managing, I'd say probably 75% of my interview questions were all around getting to understand how they would deal with conflicts with the AE, managing their schedule, prioritizing their work,
Right.
because that is the most important part. Somebody can be amazingly talented, can present great, but if they can't manage their personality and be that chameleon to work differently with every personality and AE that they're going to be assigned to and work with over their career, it's going to be really challenging.
Some of the best account executives you work with, what were some of the things they were doing that made you believe that they were best for sales engineering?
There's a lot of different tactics, skill sets, strengths, weaknesses, but in my experience, the one quality that was consistent among all the AEs that performed consistently were always at the top of the leaderboards. I guess I would call it ownership. These AEs truly own their territory as if they were a sole proprietor selling their own product in this geography or territory versus a salesperson that's working for some company and I'm paid to sell their product. This AE learns the inner workings of the company, supplying, all the products that they're selling. They understand sort of the value that they bring. They understand in depth the industries that they're selling to. And when I say they understand, they learn. They take all that in and then they orchestrate visions and strategies for success in meeting the company's goals, in achieving their financial goals. Those are the ones that understand, as any business owner would, that not only are the customers their customer, but the resources they need to sell to that customer are also their customer. So they treat them with respect. They treat them as a partner, not as a resource that they simply need tactically. Why? Because most SEs want to help, but when they're not set up for success to help or put under fire, like I need this meeting and presentation tomorrow, that's when the frustrations begin. And look, I'll give you a great example. This salesperson I worked with at many companies, I brought him in a couple of times. He brought me in. We literally killed it at every company, went club on every one of them. We've all been in a situation as a solutions engineer where the rep gives you all these requirements. We need this for the demo on Thursday, whatever. Throws it to you and says, great, I'll see you in the lobby of that customer in the morning. And you're sitting there knowing you're going to be pulling a very late night, trying to get this thing to work and coordinate it, not realizing the effort that your teammates need to do that, not recognizing that ability, where this salesperson, when he would have a meeting that came up that required a very specific demo and he knew it worked, he would not only just get the SE to meet in the office, he would get other specialists to come in and help. He would order dinner for us. He would stay with us in the room all night. He would crack jokes. He would just be part of our team as they're doing it. You're helping me. So I'm going to be here with you and I'm going to buy you dinner and I'm going to make jokes because it's already late and you're getting tired. And so I'm going to make you laugh because then you're excited and want to work for this individual. You want to go stay and crush it. And simple things like that, that AEs that can understand that it's the relationship you build with your partner, not your SE, right? We're part of a team and we want to be successful. So if they do that, it's easy. He would do that every time we had a big meeting. If he knew we were going to be working into the night, he would stay in the office with us when we were in the office.
That's right.
Order pizzas or whatever. And he would be in there and he would be cracking jokes and he would just make us be happy that we're there working and having fun doing it versus just sitting back there and expecting you to do magic.
Yeah, that's a great story.
You think that next needed help, though an SE would say no or not? Who would they prioritize? You prioritize their business versus the other AE that just throws it in your lap.
And it's just every other relationship. Both parties have to invest. Both parties have to be mindful and supported and have open communication.
I would tell my SEs when I hire them, sometimes when I see them struggling or being mechanical in their presentation or debris or demos, I would stop them and say, listen, I hired you also for your personality and your ability to be pleasant, right? Because let's face it, that's part of our job. We're selling, we're in front of people. We need people to feel comfortable with us and all that. So it's bringing the human aspect in it. And this salesperson in particular too, would always start every meeting by humanizing what was happening in the room. Another time my wife was actually in the hospital and I was at a demo. She was in labor. and it was Visiting Nurse Services of New York. And so he says to well, it was a lot of the women there that were nurses and now in the administrative area. We're going to have to keep his phone on available. I think back then it was even a BlackBerry or beeper. I don't even know. But he said, we're going to have to keep it there. And if it rings, he's going to have to answer because his wife. And forget it. Immediately, everyone was like, oh my God,
That's right.
why are you here? And then every time that thing buzzed, they were like, hold the meeting, check. And then I got so many emails the weeks following, like, how was the baby? And long story
That's
short,
really
they
good.
got that deal.
He understood his audience. It would have been very easy for somebody to say, you know what, that doesn't seem professional. We're going to do the demo regardless. Yeah. That's so amazing. Thank you so much, Nick. I really appreciate lots of great nuggets there. I think it's the respect, the ownership, and you see that in reps. When they bring that to the table, it makes us partner with them better and go above and beyond. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. Great connecting with you again. I'm sure I'll be reaching back out very soon with more guidance and more questions for you. Hope to stay in touch.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. And I know you've got some exciting things coming out and on the way. So I look forward to all of that. And I'm always here to help and always here to chat.
Sounds great. Thanks so much, man.
Yeah,
Take
take
care.
care. Son.